What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Sorry about the wait. No big deal. We're going to do this thing for you. Welcome back to another episode of At Home with Mark. So we have a very special episode because I just got a protein I don't know, 4 weeks ago or something like that. And I've been hearing the hype about it forever, but this man is responsible for it, Mr. Dave Browne. Thank you so much for doing this, man.
So excited to be here. Thank you so much.
No problem, man. So I'm serious. I've the hype has been around me for years now, I suppose. I've been hearing about this pedal and I'm a gear junkie. I'll admit it. I'm in a 12-step program probably, or should be maybe. But it's great, man. I never the Blues Breaker circuit I'm kind of familiar with, but I've only been kind of getting into that over the past probably 8 months or so, not too long. Wow. So I've been using just the typical Tube Screamers and Klon. I had an actual Klon and I sold it in 2015. I should have waited another couple years and then sold
it. At least you paid off your house.
I wish. And it's funny because I bought that pedal in I think it was 2002 from Bill for $300. And that was a lot of money for me at the time,
right,
as a young musician.
Right.
But I think I sold it for $1,500, which I'm like, this is ridiculous. I feel bad doing this,
But
you know,
I had an Analog Man King of Tone that I waited, 4 years for. Oh my gosh, how many years ago? 2015 or something. It was amazing. Stacked incredibly. It was awesome. But when the numbers got to be where well, I mean, I love this pedal, but I don't love this pedal that much.
Right. I know. That's how I felt. I bought a guitar when I sold the Klon. So that's
what a used car.
Yeah, no. I mean, it all worked out. I mean, it's funny because I have so many friends in the industry too, and they're like, dude, it's just an overdrive pedal, man. It's just sell it. Live your life, man.
Live your life.
Live your life.
Absolutely.
So, but anyway, thank you for doing this.
Absolutely.
And I always ask everybody this question. This is the first question that I find so interesting is what is your earliest musical memory?
I love that question. My earliest musical memory is the Beach Boys, listening to the Beach Boys with my dad when we would go camping or hunting or whatever. And I was always trying to sing the high harmonies, all of it. I would just jump harmonies. And he'd be like, can you just pick one and stick to it? I was like, no, I just want to sing whatever the funnest melody is happening in the song.
Okay. So did you grow up in a musical household? Was the music always around?
So my dad played guitar when I was very young. He was in surf bands and kind of quit music to go to college right around the time that the Beatles hit, and he thought music got kind of scary.
Oh, how so? That's interesting.
Well, I mean, the Beatles hit and drugs came on the scene, and it was this whole thing of are you gonna continue to chase the rabbit, down the hole musically, and they were doing surf music, and surf music just kind of got swallowed up by Beatlemania. And he, went to college and became a mechanical engineer, which I'm glad he did because I learned so much about building things and fixing things from him. But I wish he would have stuck with music as well. Music kind of disappeared in my young life for religious reasons, which was super weird.
Right.
We want to get into all that, but it got real weird for a few years there.
Did you feel like at the time, was that passion kind of a little bit staved because of that stuff? Your dad getting afraid of what's happening in the music scene? So you weren't listening to as much secular music, I would say?
This was before I was born that he quit playing, that he decided to go to college. But I mean, I remember as a child, he had an old Silvertone amp and some cool Dan Electro guitar. And I wish he still had those. But, as I came into my preteen and early teen years, loved music, and there was music not really in the home, but when we would go do stuff, hanging out with my dad, when we'd go camping or hunting or whatever, there'd be lots of music around. But they're kind of this thing happened with my parents and homeschooling and church, and just kind of this fear of the world and fear of music and fear of it's kind of sad and disappointing what happens sometimes in that kind of stuff. But yeah, for sure. It was there was this whole music is bad thing, and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense to me at all. I love music.
Right. How did you find your way to it?
You know, I was allowed to play a nylon string guitar, which, funny enough, when I dropped out of high school my senior year and kind of lived on my own for a while there, and my parents and I reconnected some years later. We both had gained a little bit more sanity. And, you know, but it's funny, growing up, I was allowed to play a nylon string guitar. When I went back to college, that's what I got my degree on, is classical guitar performance, which is kind of funny. But that's what I'd spent the most time doing, is playing classical guitar, and then spent years, you know, playing electric guitar all day, every day. But
Right. Let's talk about nylon, because this is interesting, because I have some friends who I, you know, grew up with playing guitar and playing in bands and all that. And then through college, some of those cats went on to like really hardcore study like classical technique and everything.
yeah.
And those were the dudes that kind of, I don't want to say leaned into metal more, but probably, and I don't know. And I would want your perspective on this, because I find that some of my friends who have that technique have like all the PMI stuff, is like all the independence and stuff that goes on with that. I find that they have the technique to learn and kind of grasp the sweep stuff more, a little bit more of that 3-note per string speed stuff. Do you find that lends itself to kind of traverse those boundaries, like genre wise at all?
You know, I was into really heavy music for a lot of years. I was also really angry, so these things went together. But I tend now to play more without a pick than with a pick, unless I'm in a situation that requires it, like strumming an acoustic or playing very specific stuff. But I like the sound of fingers on strings, and some of my favorite guitar players, Jeff Beck, you know, played with their fingers, and I like the way that sounds better. I don't know that I ever really got super into sweep picking, and you know, I learned a lot of Metallica, but I also learned more Led Zeppelin and Hendrix than I learned anything else back in those days. And but you know, I think that the theory was huge for me, and I studied a lot of theory for a long time, and I taught a lot of theory for a long time, and I really care about music theory in the sense of learn it, then forget it, and let it seep into all the parts of your musicality, not in that everybody needs to learn theory. I don't think I answered your question at all. I'm very sorry.
Well, no, I just find it interesting how there are certain things that send you down a path. Like all my friends like that did the classical guitar thing, like really got into studying like Yngwie and all those cats that were doing the shred metal stuff. And like, and I've never been a fast player. I'm more of a feel soul kind of guy. So for me, like when I started to try to figure out learning that technique and 3-note per string, I'm like, oh, I get it. I get efficiency picking and I get the idea behind this, but like the facility of it is astonishing to me. Like watching Frank Gambale play guitar is like, what is he doing?
Right.
Like, I don't understand it. But then hearing Derek Trucks play speaks to me more, you know? So it's like, you know,
yeah. It never connected with me emotionally enough to want to put the time into it that it would take to do what we're talking about. Like whereas trying to make your guitar sound like an old woman singing like Derek did. So I guess that would be my answer. I loved a lot of that stuff, but I never dedicated the time that it took because it just didn't matter to me in the sense of, I mean, I love Yngwie, like Yngwie. Wrong. I would love to listen to one of his songs, but that's about it. Like to like spend days, months, weeks, years trying to like hone that, it just never was enough of a connection for me personally.
Right. And about what time, how old were you when you like started switching into playing electric more?
16, 17. One of my best friends got an electric guitar, and so I would ride my bike over to his house and we'd play.
Okay. Okay. Did you at that time were you kind of starting to play with other people and did like bands start forming? Like that's like a formidable time like in a young musician's life.
Yeah, around that time. I mean, we would play and then, you know, left home around 17 and that's when I really started playing music with other people. Lived with
Okay.
other people and played music all the time.
Okay. And did you find that at that time were you already tinkering with stuff? Like were you fixing and like swapping pickups or doing stuff like that at all? And
No,
okay.
that was way later. Um, yeah, you know, I was listening to a lot of heavy music and was learning to play, you know, for some reason Led Zeppelin was just the thing that connected with me the most. I mean, after Guns N' Roses, you know, it was like the guitar and the drums and the vocals all together, and I wanted to do all of those things simultaneously, which is not possible. But um, so you know, that's kind of what I was really focused on. But there came a time when I was playing music with people later and I had an amp that broke and it was really expensive to have it fixed. And I had grown up fixing and building all kinds of things. And it was like, this doesn't make any sense to pay somebody exorbitant amounts of money to fix it when I'm sure I could fix it myself. I just need to figure out how. And so I started working on amps. And that was first.
Okay. That seems scary in terms of like probable death.
I mean, there are very real practical things that you need to be aware of, like get the voltage out of the amplifier before you start to. But I mean, I had been doing construction work for years and doing electrical. I mean, I understood what it meant to get shocked really hard. And you must take the precautions to make sure that doesn't happen. And that had happened way earlier in my life, you know?
Yeah.
I had been tricked into getting hit with 220 at one time by my brother
Oh,
on the, you know, back flushing a pool system at a house that we house. So I'd been bit real hard. I've only ever been bit by an amp real hard once, and it was a little tiny PV Classic 20, and that was enough to scare the life out of you. That like never make sure that never happens ever. And I didn't even do anything stupid. I just picked up a chassis to move it. Like there was water in a basement and I was moving things quickly and I picked up an amp that I was working on and somehow touched it. It wasn't plugged in. It just was
touched a cap like a
yeah,
capacitor. Woo!
but it was enough to like burn a hole in my finger and knock me down. And you know, and I was just moving stuff.
Dude. Oh my gosh, man.
So
That's crazy. I have a T-Rock Studio Signature that I love, and I have a head and a cabinet, but Eli made me a combo with a 12-inch speaker in it and a reverb tank. So he's like, if you want to go to a gig and just swap the chassis out, he was like, be careful though.
be careful
When you do it.
mm-hmm.
And the first time I did it, man,
Oh.
I was being careful and I was aware, like, do not touch the capacitor. Like, slide this out, keep your hands on the side of the chassis. Like, don't let your thumbs come over. And I must have just grazed or something. And I was like, like for like, probably just a second, but it was long enough to put the fear of God into me.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh man. So, okay. So when you fix that amp, when you fix that first amp, are you like, holy crap, I can do this. Like, I can like maintain my stuff. I can.
So it was like, I had a Tweed Bassman reissue that cost me like $400 to get repaired, which, in retrospect, I probably got ripped off, but I'm like, I don't think I paid that much for this amp. And so then a buddy of mine was like, well, I've got all these old blackface Fender amps and I'm paying exorbitant amounts of money to have guys work on them. Why don't you just learn how to work on these amps? Because he and his dad and his brother had a bunch of really cool old amps and stuff I couldn't afford. So I was like, yeah, well, so I bought a book and started working on their amps, and it just kept going. Old Fenders, old Marshalls, old boxes, and it just kind of became a thing that I did, and started building guitars and very mechanically savvy. So all this stuff was not, it wasn't super difficult to like just figure my way into it. And then once I started doing it, I just kind of became the guy that did that stuff and everybody wanted me to work on their stuff. And it just kind of just kept growing.
Man, so word of mouth.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh man, that's crazy.
Eventually
Hey, Dave,
led to guitar teching and touring and just doing this professionally for people, because it was just something that I loved playing guitar. I was good at playing guitar. I was good at fixing guitars, setting up guitars, tweaking amps, wiring up pedal boards. And so it was real natural.
so who did you go on the road with? I don't know any of this stuff. Fill
So
me in here.
the first guy I toured with was Stephen Curtis Chapman. I got a random call to, could you come guitar tech for Stephen Curtis Chapman? And I was like, well, yeah, that would be amazing. I mean, I didn't grow up listening to his music, but my sisters did, and he's a super kind, wonderful guy. And so that gig was a blast. And I did that for a few years and finally decided touring's not for my family. This isn't going to work. Kids at home. And then I had another buddy who was playing bass for Michael McDonald. So I went out and toured with them for 3 or 4 years. And that was all, gigs you can't turn down. But at the same time, you run into the same problem where it's like, I got teenagers at home that are growing up and they miss their dads. So I got to figure out how to stay at home. And that's when we launched the pedal thing. Like, this is repairing amps, building small scale custom amps, custom guitars, not scalable, not really profitable, but like pedals, maybe we could scale that. So we took a big leap and did the Protein.
Man, that's crazy. Hey, Dave, let's do something. Can you log out and log back in? Because there's a big lag.
Absolutely.
Let's see if that fixes that.
Absolutely.
Hopefully that fixes it. It's distracting. I'm like, here, seeing your mouth.
Oh, good.
The old on-off button might work.
Right.
Thanks for hanging, folks. Yeah, we have some technical issues going on today, but this is super fun. I'm gonna come back in and see if this works. It's probably just his internet connection got a little bit jangled. We don't like the jangle. Jingle jangle. Sometimes that fixes it. Let me do this. Here he comes. All right, let's see if that worked.
Do we still have a lag?
Yeah, no, it's good. That's good now. Sweet.
Hey.
Awesome. All right. So first of all, Michael McDonald, holy crap, dude.
He's so amazing. What a kind, wonderful, brilliant individual.
I mean, how is that watching that cat play every night? I mean, that's got to be pretty inspiring.
Amazing. I mean, I loved every second of it.
That's crazy, man. Do you have any really good stories of like crisis intervention that you can tell? Because I'm sure there's people that wonder about that side of the industry where it's like, you got to like step it up and fix things immediately. Like there's that clip of Steve Lukather. Have you seen that clip where Steve, his like gear goes out in the middle of some crazy awesome Toto song and the tech runs up and it's like, and it's like, and it comes back on and he's like, yay. Like, do you have any stories like that?
Constantly. It happens all the time. I'm literally listening to the entire show with in-ears in, paying attention to everybody that's on my checklist, which would be Mike, Bernie, Jacob, Pat Coyle, if we've got organ going, and then the sax, if he's running his harmonizer setup, because that's kind of in my purview as well. And I'm right next to the drummer. So if anything goes wrong for Dan Needham, that's, I'm going to try. So I'm listening to the whole show every night, loving every minute of it. But also listening for anything at all that seems off, because that's where you got to notice that, like, and it could be a bad cable. It could be a power supply that goes out. It could be something needs to be rebooted. You've always, you try to carry spares of everything. Mm-hmm. But everything from broken strings to keyboards need to be rebooted in the middle of a song. It's just constant.
Man.
Leslie's that stop working in the middle of a show and you got to plug in the Leslie simulator instead.
Dude, so you were everything to everyone, I guess. That's crazy.
Well, I mean, there were other guys out there to help with that, but for sure, if you're the guitar tech and we've got a monitor tech, and then I had another guy helping me, but yeah, if something breaks, you're out there on the stage fixing it live. It's an adrenaline rush.
I'm sure, man. That's crazy. It seems to me like that's worse than jumping out of an airplane with a parachute on. Like that,
Do that though.
it would be. But it seems that's like such a stressful job. Like people think there's like all this glamour involved in like touring. It's like when people talk about, oh, you travel for work? That's cool. I'm like, dude, traveling for work ain't that fun, man. If you've never done it, it sucks. But that seems like a stressful environment.
Seems like, oh, cool, hotel, restaurant, but then you're like, oh, by yourself, you don't know where you are, you don't know where you're going. It's, yeah, traveling full time has upsides, but
yeah,
no, it's a very stressful job, but I loved it.
yeah.
I run really good on adrenaline, so.
And I'm sure you learned a ton on the spot, Yeah.
Absolutely.
Did you get to the point where you could tune your ears to hear, like you could find, oh, I know what that is. Like that's a cable, or that's a patch cable on the board that's not, coming from the guitar, that's like in the line.
I think I got to where I could distinguish who was having trouble quickly and then run out there and suss it out.
Yeah.
And, usually it's a hardware problem on the stage, not, everything being digital Cat5 cables and all that. You kind of have eliminated a lot of the board or, soundboard issues kind of nonsense that was probably huge back in the day.
Right.
XLR or whatever.
That's crazy, man. Did you so okay, when you come off the road, you're like, it's family time, which I 100% understand. Been there. Were you like, okay, we're gonna start this pedal company, and how did the protein come about? Like, how are you like dual pedal is the way to go? Because I'll tell you, and I said this in the review I did on my channel of the protein. Like, I'm a fan of dual pedals. Some people are like, about dual pedals. I've had nothing but success with those, and I like that there is like such an immense amount of options in one little box, because the proteins does not take up a large footprint,
right?
So I don't know how you put all that magical unicorn dust into that little box, but tell me how it got started and why those circuits and everything.
So my buddy Adam Snagowski, who has been a longtime client and a longtime friend, was touring a ton playing guitar and would show up to a lot of gigs with bad backline. And he found a couple of pedals that he really felt like would, if he had a good amp, would sound awesome, but also he could use as tools to fix bad backline. Like the protein, if you have an amp that you can't turn up, and so you turn the gain all the way down on the protein and you turn the level to get you up to unity or just past and use the tone to get you bright enough, you can take a little tiny amp and make it sound big, right?
Yeah.
So that circuit is cool for that. But he was like, I need both of these in one pedal. I need to be able to throw it in my backpack and, take it to Thailand and play a gig, and know that I've at least got this. And so we spent a long time trying to figure out exactly what those two pedals were, what the best version of those two circuits we could, we had a pedal that he loved that turned out to be an ODR1 type pedal that we started tweaking from there. And then he had another pedal that was based on a blues breaker with some other options. And I was like, well, I would like a different output section, but we'll, build it from there. And so we built this pedal for him to tour with as a, problem solver. And then he said, man, I think you should make these for people. I think people would want these. And I was like, yeah, I don't know about I like to build custom things. I like to build one-offs. Like I like to build something, but the idea of building something multiple times, it's like make chocolate chip pancakes is great. Make chocolate chip pancakes all day, every day. No, thank you. Right. So, I figured out like, okay, if this is the circuit we're going to do, I will figure out how to make 100 of these and we'll see what happens. And I invested and made 100 of them and was like, okay, I have to sell this many to make my money back. And was just like counting, trying to hope that we would sell enough to make back the savings that I invested in making 100 of them. And we sold them all. And then it was like, how do I make more? How do I keep this thing going? And so like production and, management of the business and all this kind of stuff is not where my brain is. So it's just been playing catch up, keep up ever since.
Yeah. It's got to be tough to kind of manage all that stuff. I can't even imagine when you stumble upon something this good, it's a problem because people are going to want it. I mean, it's a good problem to
It's
have.
wonderful.
Yeah.
It's been nuts. The last 3 years have been nuts. And I have hired guys to help me because, luckily I had some really smart business-minded friends who early on I said, okay, if I'm going to do this, you have to be my board. Like they're some of my best friends in the world, but they're also like super businessy, money, smart. I'm not any of those things. I like to play guitar and I like to make sounds.
Right.
So these guys really helped me out. And, luckily when I needed someone desperately, Ben was available and I hired a good friend, Ben Woodward. And, Adam's been amazing being artist slash, media. He runs a great studio. And so he helps me make audio clips. Most of them that I made were really bad, especially in the beginning. But it's just like, we need a clip of the pedal. I don't know. I guess I'll play a clip of the guitar.
Right.
So yeah, it's been whack-a-mole since the beginning.
Yeah,
for sure.
So then, you've got a cool thing happening tomorrow, where I don't know if people have seen the Carbon and now the Atom, but like, was that something that people have been like clamoring since the beginning, or is that only like in the past year or so that people have been clamoring about that and asking for it?
I think since the beginning, but as we've grown, the level of clamor has changed.
Yeah.
When you're making 100 pedals or 500 pedals and guys are saying, hey, you should do the Blue Side on its own. You're like, yeah, that'd be great. I cannot make enough proteins. But then eventually it was like, we probably should do the Blue Side on its own. And then as we're gearing up to launch the Atom, guys are like, hey, what if you made the Blue Side on its own? And we're like, oh, we have not done a good job communicating that happened more than a year ago.
Right.
So, the game of like advertisement and, that's just not been what we've been about. Like we've had an Instagram, but, we've not been growing social media or paying for advertisement or doing any of this. We've just been trying to keep up with demand for this, silly pedal and it's not silly. I love the Protein. It's my favorite. Yeah. But you know what I'm saying? Like we made a pedal and then we've just been trying to keep up ever since.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, when I first plugged into it, because I have a bunch of friends who have had it and for a while, and a few of my friends that are in Nashville who use it. And I was like, you know what? It's like, it's a circuit that I've never played an ODR1. I don't think this is an ODR1 by any stretch. It's its own animal. And I think it has like a spirit of that kind of vibe. But I think you've taken, what I like about this stuff is when people start making pedals and they start like building a fuzz face, or they start building a blues breaker circuit or whatever it may be, or a TS circuit, somehow it's like dumping toxic waste on it. It's like the Toxic Avenger is born. Like something sprouts, like it becomes its own thing. And when I plugged into this for the first time, I turned the right side on first because I was like, I've never heard this under my fingers, and I really want to feel this. And I have a nice amp right there, wherever that is, that 2-Rock.
I love that amp.
Yeah, but I was like literally did that because it was a sound that I have not heard in this room or on a stage. And when I just played a gig the other weekend, I had that on my board. And when I went back and listened to audio from that gig, I was like, this is the best my tone has ever sounded. And I had several people that come see me often. One who's a very serious musician was like, dude, I've never heard your tone that pointed, like brilliant, cutting. And now granted, I'm a Strat guy, but I got this guitar this past year.
Oh,
this Josh Williams.
Yes, I've been in conversations with him for a while.
Oh man, I'm telling you, man.
Him and Mule are just doing stuff that's like, come on.
I'm telling you, man. that guitar, and I'm 43. I've been a Strat and Telly guy my whole career. And I've toured and recorded and been studio work and all that crap throughout my whole career. And this guitar, this 335, I've never owned anything like this, any semi hollow body guitar. And I cannot believe how awesome that thing is.
Yeah.
It's worth every single penny. And every person that I talk to, from Ariel Posen to Joey Landreth, all my friends, like I know all these cats and they all have one of these. And they're like, dude, trust me.
Did he make that in satin black for you too?
It's, you know what it is? It's charcoal frost. But the light, it's hard. It looks black, but when you see it in different light, it's gray. It's like a gray, and it's got that tortoise shell.
You know, gray's my favorite color.
Dude, I'm telling you, man. He said that he's never done this color, and he was like, this is, I think, becoming one of my favorite colors that I've ever done on a guitar. So,
so you're saying he offers that color now?
Man, he did it.
I saw that one the other day and was like, that matte, whatever it is, satin black, frost. That charcoal frost,
yeah,
is so sexy.
It's super sexy. I mean, it's dark. It's like a dark gray, but man, it is, and it plays so fast. And like I was telling you, I'm not a fast player, but when I get on this thing, it's like it's like somebody poured melted butter all over my strings. It just feels so good under your hands. You gotta
do that once, and it wasn't as good as I was expecting. So I'm not sure that melted butter is the way to go. But if you're playing fast, you might try it. I mean, we're just saying.
You know, it's savory. It's not sweet. It's savory. But it's dude, you gotta play one, man. And I would say, screw it, just put your deposit down, because he's building the most beautiful instruments, you know, known to man. All right, so I'm getting carried away here. I'm going off topic, but anyway.
You know what? I'm at that place. He and I are in that conversation. The email has been sent. So
well, so let's go there then. Like, what is your current number one guitar? Like, what are you loving to play right now? Like, out of all your instruments, you got several back there.
I do. My newest favorite thing is a Mule Resonator that I got, that Matt built for me. And it didn't build for me. Like, I paid for it full price. Like, Matt didn't give me a guitar, but I had a brass, resonator made that is, I've never played anything like it. It is so expressive and incredible. Like, everything you play on it just has these notes surrounding the notes that you play, that it's just incredibly inspirational.
Have you played any of the Mulecasters?
No, but I might have ordered one.
That's awesome. Those necks are so beautiful too. Like the flame on his
neck.
My
gosh, yes.
What does he do? Like, where does he source that wood? Have you talked to him about that?
I can't tell any of that.
Yeah, I know.
But treating the wood in such a way to make all that flame pop, there's some really cool tricks. I haven't been building flame neck guitars for years, but some of my original pieces, like that yellow Telecaster on the wall there, has a flame neck on it. But it has a nitro finish on it, which I need to take all that finish off and gray that neck out the way I gray the necks out now. But, you can do things to make those colors really pop. And that Mule.
Where is it? Is it right there? Oh yeah, dude. Is that brass or is it? Okay, no.
It's brass.
Is it?
The options that you can pick. And from my years of building guitars and basses, aluminum sounds really good. Steel sounds good, light, but brass is my favorite sounding metal for guitar parts. I don't know why, but I've experimented for years, and brass is like, it resonates in a way that speaks personally to me.
Yeah. It's the same thing with slides, man. I for years, I went through so many slides, and I'm not a glass guy. I prefer brass on the strings.
Man. I'm a glass guy for sure.
Oh, are you?
But I started, I'm reaching for things. I shouldn't do that. I started with metal slides. And then I found this in the backyard of a house that I owned. And I don't know what it is. I think it's a Coricidin bottle. It
looks like it.
On either side, which the best part of this glass slide is this seam, because if you hold it so that the seam is towards the center, then you can choose to put the seam on the strings or not. And when you put the seam on the wound strings, it's like scraping a pick on the strings a little bit, and you
Yep.
can get that zzz. And so I love glass, but I also love metal slides. And I got one of those brass round tip slides recently, and I got another one of the I think it's Dunlop makes a Rich Robinson. It's a really thick, heavy brass slide that sounds amazing on a resonator.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
a big slide guy. I've been playing slide forever. I did years of open tunings, and I think the last 10 or 15 years I've been trying to play everything in standard tuning. Wow, that makes me sound old, but it's because I'm like, I don't really want to try to remember all the different tunings and and how to play what, but that resonator has me back to open E types
Nice.
of tunings, D, C sharp.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Are you a big Blake Mills fan?
Oh my gosh, Blake Mills got me going on that. The If I'm Unworthy tuning. Spent
That
years trying to play that song.
I'm telling you, I feel like I had a whole conversation with somebody one time. I think that might be one of the most brilliant songs ever written.
I bought that record on vinyl for someone really special to me. Bought that record for me for Christmas this year.
Yeah, it's a good record. I mean, from start to finish, that record. And then sonically, like what Blake does in the studio.
Yes.
And like I'm a huge Dawes fan too. Are you into Dawes?
You love them.
Yes,
Oh
yes. But like, what's that record? We're All Gonna Die. That's the first record I came in on, Dave. I didn't know about Dawes until September of 2022. Believe it or not.
I mean, I think it was probably a year sooner than that for me. But I remember I was shoveling snow when I first heard When the Tequila Runs Out, and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I can write a song.
Dude. I was coming home. I'm a huge Pearl Jam nut, hence Eddie Vedder right there. But I was coming home from Pearl Jam with my buddy, and we went to see, I'm in Baltimore. We went up to see them in New Jersey. And we're coming home, and he's like, have you ever listened to Dawes? And I was like, I've heard of them, but I've never, like, everybody keeps telling me you're going to like him. Like Josh Scott told me that when I've had him on the show. He's like, the way you play, I know you would love Dawes. You got to listen to him. And I never did. But we're coming home, and he put We're All Gonna Die on, and we listened to the whole record, and I was like, start that over. Like, I had to listen to the whole thing again because I was like, I cannot believe what I just heard.
Yeah.
Like, and this was like, what, 2016 when that record came out. But like everything since I've gone back and bought every single record since September and been soaking it up because we're going to go see him in March when they come to DC.
Oh, lucky.
And Lee Pardini, the keyboard player, is going to be on my show in 3 weeks.
Come on.
Huh?
Come on.
Yeah, I know, dude. I'm all in. I'm all in on them.
That is so awesome.
But did you listen to the most recent record? The Misadventures? Oh,
just
what do you
recently.
What do you think of that one?
So good.
Yeah.
Now, Blake produced the one before the most recent one. Is that correct?
So I can't remember. I think my buddy told me Dave Cobb might have produced what is it? Okay with Whatever. What's the name of that record? I just got that. There's one that has a Still Feel Like a Kid on it.
That was the
Good Luck with Whatever. That's the one. I think Dave Cobb might have done that one. But I don't know if Blake. I think Blake might have been in on a couple because the whole Simon Dawes. Oh yeah. I love that record.
2018. Yeah. So the one right after We're All Gonna Die.
Yeah. Feed the Fire.
In the future. Yes. We're living in the future. Right.
Oh. See,
so
sorry. Go ahead. No. Go ahead.
We're All Gonna Die. Somebody said you have to listen to Dawes, and I heard the We're All Gonna Die, and that record was on repeat for a while, and then Passwords came out, and I was like, what?
Yeah. And then it just continued. It just continues to get better and better. And it's funny because if you go backwards, if you listen to all your favorite bands, it's a good record.
Absolutely.
But
it doesn't grab me like the others do.
No. And I don't know if it's like just Taylor's songwriting has gotten successively just like more and more unique and more of a fingerprint. And I love the harder edge stuff that they do. Like the first time you hear One of Us, I mean, dude, dun, 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 and you're just like, what is gonna happen? Like, it's unreal. Like those guys are just. Did you watch that? God, we're nerding out so hard right now. But did you watch that Dolls in the Round when they played through the whole Doom Scroller record live? Oh, dude, it's on YouTube. Put it on.
Okay.
Put it on tonight. They play straight through the whole record live, and it's amazing. And it will give you a whole new appreciation for the musicality of those cats.
I'm writing a note. Sorry.
Yeah, that's good. All right. Anyway, I got to get back to like promoting your company because I love it so much. But
also the Barr Brothers. Speaking of promoting my company, have you ever listened to the Barr Brothers?
No.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, I will write that down. BARR.
BARR.
Okay. Got it.
Last 2 or 3 records. I mean, Brad Barr is
similar kind of vibe, musically speaking.
Just genius vibe. Great guitar playing, great songwriting, great vocals, great musicality. Go check them out. Somebody turned me on to those guys when I was working, when I was doing a bunch of repairs on Josh's amps, and I moved into JHS because I was like, Josh, it would be easier to come here and work on your stuff than to take all of these things back to my house.
Right.
When I was trying to stop touring, and Josh was like, how about you go through all these amps? And so one of the guys I was sharing a space with was like, do you know the Barr Brothers? And oh my gosh, I love the Barr Brothers so much.
Okay. I will check it out.
Good old Canadians.
Any band with brothers in it is usually my jam. Right. Like the Wood Brothers, you know, Brothers Landreth.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So the Atom's coming out tomorrow. Is that officially coming out?
Is tomorrow the 8th?
Yes. Okay. So people, you said the clamoring has become louder and louder as the past couple of years have gone on. Mm-hmm. Do you, I mean, you don't have to spill any beans because I know there's a fuzz pedal too that I was like, I just discovered that the other day too. I was like, I didn't even realize there was a fuzz pedal.
You should check out the T4.
Yeah. I'm a junkie for fuzz too. So
it's not a fuzz face fuzz, although it will kind of do that. But I, for years, was trying to figure out, I loved Big Muffs, but in a live situation, you turn them on and your guitar just went, so I spent, and it was kind of funny, when I got ready to put that pedal into production, I was like, I was feeling some imposter syndrome. And then I started digging through my schematics, and I was like, I have 16 hand-drawn revision schematics of a Big Muff that I was going through trying to find what I wanted. That kind of helped me being like, man, you like for 15 years, you've been studying the Big Muff circuit and trying to like dial it in. So don't feel bad about releasing your version. That might've been too personal. Sorry.
Nah,
but I
do that to people.
Yeah, I wanted it to work in a live situation. I wanted to be able to I wanted that sound. I wanted, David Gilmour guitar solos in the situations where I was playing, and that meant it had to work with a, cleanish Fender.
Yeah. What is it about? I don't understand the Muff circuit really. I mean, I've heard it. I understand who uses it. David Gilmour. I understand Billy Corgan's vibe with it and all that. But like what? I don't understand. It's like the fuzzes that are out there. So like fuzz face is normally what I lean towards, or a zonk kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Because I like it when my amp feels like it's going to implode. Like when there's like that spitty kind of fuzz face thing, but it still retains, but it sounds like it's about to just like that all of a sudden, Absolutely. But like, I think the Big Muff it's kind of bigger and woolier. Is that wrong?
No, it's right. So you had the fuzz face, and Hendrix did amazing things with that. And then you had different 3 transistor fuzzes that started coming out after that did all kinds of amazing things, tone bender, zonk, whatever. And those like super ripped, but also were really bright, and eventually Mike Matthews came out with this 4 transistor fuzz that was like changed the game, because it was like it would sustain forever, and it it just was so heavy, and heavy in a really beautiful, incredible sort of way. And so if you sit down and you dial in your amp to the Big Muff, which is kind of what you have to do, you end up with this incredible thing. But like on a pedal board, that doesn't really work. Like in a modern setting, that doesn't really work. And so I wanted to bring that magic to like today. Like I want you to be able to put this pedal on your pedal board and have it work. Whereas if you put a Big Muff on your pedal board, you'd be like, this doesn't work at all.
Right. Yeah.
Besides the fact that it's as big as my whole pedal board. Also, all the mids are gone.
Right. Yeah, I read that on the site, just about like you wanted to be able to have those mids to help cut, through the mix and everything. That's huge, because I'm of the mindset of like the Doyle Bramhall sauce, where you kind of are stacking an overdrive with the fuzz to get it to smooth out, kind of thing. Did Eric Johnson do that too?
I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised. If you can't, the thing about really cool fuzz pedals and really cranked up amps is you get this magical thing that starts to happen when you're stacking gain stages. And so if you can't do that live with a loud amp, then you can definitely do that with circuits where you're stacking gain stages. And then you get all this harmonic content and compression and beautiful things that start to happen. I mean, for me, the T4 into the protein, or the protein into the T4, was part of the story,
Oh, okay. So was that like intentional? Were you like, I want to see how this stacks with this and how it will work with other pedals? Like, did you put it into other overdrives and stuff too to check it out?
For sure. I mean, that's how I've been using it from the beginning, is running it with or into another overdrive if you can't turn an amp up loud, because that kind of can create the same thing. If you have something like the blue side of the protein that will handle being hit really hard and has the headroom to manage that.
Yeah.
And also, you got to make the fuzz work with modern available transistors, or you have to hunt down unobtainium, which that's cool too,
Right. There's my buddy Chris. You know about OCE pedals? He's in here. He builds stuff. He's out in California. But he has a series he calls the hardware series that is like, he has a fuzz and a boost and an overdrive kind of thing, but there's like a little wrench on it. You might have seen it floating around pictures, but I
feel like I've seen that.
He's going through a similar thing where he had to come out with a V2 of his fuzz because he can't source the parts.
Right.
Like, and that's got to be hard for you guys to like, how do you continually, like when you made the protein, were you like, this has to be evergreen? We got to figure out a way to make this,
That's
and
when Tesla went nuts a couple of years ago and bought up all the JFETs, all the SMD JFETs, it was like, I mean, I feel like at one point, man, I'm not sure I should say this on here.
Do it.
I bought a roll of SMD JFETs from a good friend who was willing to help me out because they were not available. They went into all the cars.
And for what? What do they use them in the cars for?
Probably audio amplifiers.
Okay.
Probably in their stereos. But, somebody bought them all for the next 6 months,
Jeez. That's crazy. Was this like pandemic era? Like when everybody...
Before. Because this is when we first launched the protein. We were in our second or third run, and it was like, there are no J201s anywhere.
Man, that's crazy.
I was finding them from other sources online and buying up everything I could find. But, Josh let me buy 100 from him at one point. That really saved my bacon.
He's a good dude. He's such a good dude.
Real good dude.
Let's talk about that real quick before we head out, because like I find that this community, like there's a lot of competition. You guys have a lot of competition with each other in a way, but like it feels like everybody kind of takes care of each other in a way too. Like I just remember hearing stories about, when the pandemic hit and there was tube shortages and stuff, like Eli from T-Rock told me that there was different people kind of helping each other out and sending each other tubes and different things that they needed to keep their amp production going. And it seems like you guys have such a great community together. Am I wrong in seeing that? Is there a veneer on the outside, David, or is this?
I feel like, wow, I'm not trying to be a Josh Scott fanboy, and I love Josh, and he's my friend, and I'm making no bones about that. But before I was ever into this game, before I was even close to being into this game, Josh was changing that culture by inviting new builders in and being like, there's room enough for everybody who's going to do something great here. And I've tried to take that into whatever I do as well. When people are asking questions and going, hey, I want to start a business, or do you have any idea, or can you help me fix this thing that I'm trying to make? That the whole, there was just kind of a mudslinging, keep everybody in the dark and don't help anybody out on all the forums for a lot of years that I remember. And Josh really kind of came in and was like, there's enough room for everybody. And he was really helpful to a lot of guys before I was trying to build pedals, and definitely was that way to me as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think now, yes, that is definitely the case. I think there's enough room for everybody, and just make good stuff.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's inspiring, and I feel like there's so many reasons to be negative in this world, I guess. Yeah. But finding ways to, I don't know, overcome that and be like one great guitar community, it seems like that from the outside looking in, it seems like that is the case. And that's what's fun about even like the social media presence. I know that you said earlier that you guys didn't dump all your eggs into that basket, obviously, and you were just kind of trying to keep up with demand. But it seems like you guys have a great presence on social media now, and your team is doing a great job kind of A, making us laugh, B, providing guitar players with inspirational tools. That's what it comes down to. It really is. Playing through something like this and having my jaw drop, it doesn't happen every time I get sent something, David. Like, it really doesn't. And when I was plugged into this pedal, I was just absolutely playing stuff I never would have played before because of how it was hitting me, And that's got to feel good too, that you're doing something for people like that.
It's what gets me up in the morning, man.
Yeah.
I want to make machines of inspiration. Like, that is what I want to do. I love music so incredibly much, and it is such a deep part of who I am, that if I can inspire other people to want to continue to do that and to play things they haven't played, or, I mean, that's what I love when I pick up a piece of gear. And that's how I know when a piece of gear is, I don't think anything's ever done, but when something's done enough to be like, yeah, let's make this, is when I start playing it and I forget that I'm testing something and I just am playing music.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome, dude. Are you guys always continuously like wheels are spinning on new ideas and stuff? Or are you kind of like,
I've got another pedal that's coming out after the Atom that I have here now ready to go. I've got hundreds of them ready to go. I've got another, I probably shouldn't have said that. I've got another I've just finished dialing it in, and I'm so excited about it. I'm going to start posting little clips of it. Because it's a pedal that I've had a hard time getting along with. It's a type of pedal that I've always had a hard time getting along with, and I'm so excited to put some into the wild.
Oh man, that's cool. And then last thing before we do this lightning round get down, I want to ask you the aesthetics of your pedals with the badge and everything. Is that a pain in the ass to come up with like an original idea of how to make something look? Because it's so simple, but it's so cool. It's like the hippest. It's like the hip uncle that comes to the gathering. It's like, what's up, everybody? Like, I feel like looking at that on my board, it just stands out. It's fun,
Yeah.
Was that like hard to come to that stuff?
So Adam had a big part in that. He really cares about aesthetics, and he's really good at design kind of stuff. And so he was a big part of that. We kind of got into this, oh my gosh, let's go military. Let's go old school radio. I mean, there's a lot of pedals with badges on them now and shiny knobs, but there wasn't back then. Mm-hmm. And it is a pain in the ass to keep making badges and sticking them on pedals. And figuring out how to make them stick, and that part was a big pain. But I was lucky that I had people on my team who wanted to design really cool, original looking stuff.
Yeah. That army green is so tight, dude. It really.
Green actually is my favorite color. I know I said gray is my favorite color earlier, but I was just quoting Counting Crows.
Man, so it's funny because that green color, that's like that Chris Cornell 335, right? That's like that similar color.
It is.
That's a dope color too. If you got a Josh Williams.
Fender's making guitars in that color. I know, you're right. I should do that. Matte army green, Josh.
Yeah, or do the gray. I don't know, man. It's pretty sexy. And that finish on the back of that neck, I will say, I'm always kind of squirrely about finishes on necks.
Right.
I just don't want, like if you're playing a festival and you're outside and it gets gunky, and
so
this thing plays so smooth. It's like I'd never felt like this feels like gunky, and I can't get around quick on it. So I don't know. And the split inlays. Woo.
All that butter you put on it. Sorry.
Yeah. All right, David, you ready to do this lightning round? Get down.
I'm so ready for a lightning round.
All right. So I'm going to ask you, I'm going to put on
for anybody who asked.
I'm going to put on a metronome. And we're not going to do 160 BPM. What are you talking about? No, Mark.
165, 180.
We're going to do 112. 112. I was writing a song the other day and I was trying to find the tempo, and I like a fast quarter note tempo. It was in 7, and I like that groove. So that's why it was set there. But all right, so 112 BPM. I'm going to ask you 10 questions. You can explain your answers the way you answered them if you'd like. You do not have to. It's not mandatory. But here we go.
My brain's running trip off that metronome, just so you know.
All right. First one's always the same, David. Lennon or McCartney?
Oh, Lennon. Sorry.
It's okay. Gatorade or Powerade?
Neither.
Goonies or Stranger Things?
Stranger Things.
All right. For a party favor activity that you could do, or party trick, cartwheel or front flip?
Well, I'd rather do a front flip. Are you asking me if I can do one, or which one?
No. Which trick would you be able to do? Would you rather be able to do?
I'd rather be able to do a front flip.
Front flip. All right. Pac-Man or Space Invaders?
Ooh, Space Invaders.
Pasta or pizza?
Pizza.
Fuzz Face or Big Muff? I think I know the answer to this.
Fuzz Face.
Oh, okay. Change it up.
I love it.
It's pretty good. Checkers or chess?
Chess.
All right. Now, would you rather travel the world for free for 6 months or just be handed $50K?
Travel the world for free for 6 months. Did you say 3 or 6?
6.
6. Yeah, 6 months for sure.
All right, cool. All right, and here's the last one. If you could take any record, does not have to be your favorite record of all time, but if you could take one record and erase it from your memory, like Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, so you've never heard it before, just so you could go back and listen to it and experience it for the first time again now, what album would that be?
We already talked about it in depth. Hi-ho.
Oh, okay. So it's bound on that.
So since like Hendrix or the Beatles or I don't know what else, Led Zeppelin 2, I can't think of a record that like destroyed me over and over for so long and made me want to go play guitar and try and figure out how in the world is he making those sounds and how is he doing those things. I mean, If I'm Unworthy, there's not a lot of songs I've tried to play as many times as I've tried to play that song.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And some of it's the thumb and the fingers. We talked about the PMI, right?
Yeah.
PIMA, not PMI. PMI is mortgage interest, right? Sorry for adulting for a moment. But just trying to play like that, trying to play slide like that, or how did he get the echo in front of the guitar solo and then make that come in the echo's the part that's in time? What?
Yeah, I know. That's the one thing I was like, dude, if I could ever interview him on here, that's the one question I want to ask him. But I don't need to talk about anything else. But that is the one thing that I'm always curious about. That, yeah, I don't know how that all worked. But there's no drums in that song until the last 20 seconds too.
I think he flipped it around, put echo on it, flipped it back around, and then moved it all back in time so that the echo was in time of the original. That's what I think, but I don't really know.
Oh, yeah, that's crazy. And then, I mean, Don't Tell All Our Friends, like that
Oh
song.
my gosh.
That guitar feels like it's gonna creep out of your stereo and slap you in the face. It's so forward.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking? It's just like right there
So
the whole time.
let me tell you this. My friend, some of our best, my wife and I's best couple friend, like a friend that she grew up with, and her husband's a dear friend of mine. She wanted to go see Fiona Apple for her birthday a bunch of years ago. And so her husband bought 4 tickets, and we went to go see Fiona Apple. And her guitar player was also the opening act, this guy I'd never heard of named Blake Mills, who came out with a Telecaster and a Tweed Deluxe and proceeded to knock me down on the floor for an hour or half an hour or whatever it was. But I have never been so impressed with somebody's musicality ever.
Yeah.
And that started me down the road of who the heck, and that was before Hi Ho came out.
Mm-hmm. Man, that's crazy. And I guess that was post Simon Dawes too. I mean, I remember he was with those cats early on. So it's crazy. Can you imagine if those guys were still playing together? I don't think Dawes would sound the way it sounds now.
Yeah.
If he was still in the band, but like,
it's probably too much energy for one room.
Yeah, it's too much, like too many brilliant minds in one room. It's too much, but man, well, David, thank you so much for spending some time with me, man. This was awesome. I feel
Thanks for having me, man. What a blast.
We could have riffed on all those bands for another hour. So I appreciate it. But anything else you want to say before we head out? And look here, your boys would spend way more than $50K in 6 months.
I'm talking about.
Oh my
That's
God.
Ben saying we would go to Scotland and drink all of the scotch. Man, we're just so grateful. I'm so grateful that this thing that I tried worked, and it worked because amazing people decided to believe in it. And we've got all these incredible people who continue to tell other people about the protein, right? It's so fun that I have so many people who text me regularly and like, hey, so-and-so. And it could be like my random buddy, Bill, who was changing oil in my garage, or it could be like this super famous musician that you love. They just played the protein and it blew their minds. And like, they just ordered one and, thanks again, or just wanted you to know this was me or whatever. Like we have these amazing people who promote us and love us. And I'm just so grateful. Yeah. That's where I'm at. I'm grateful.
That's so cool, man. I just went to see, are you familiar with the band Mo, the jam band Mo? M-O-E?
Yes.
So those guys are like, I mean, I grew up learning guitar, listening to Chuck Garvey and Al Schneer. And I've gotten to know those guys. When they came to DC, I went to see him. And then I know the drummer and the percussionist pretty well. They were on my show and the other guitar player. But Chuck had a stroke about a year and a half ago. And New Year's Eve this year was his first show back. And he's been like my hero. So like when I went to DC, I went to New Year's to see them. And then I went to see them again a month later in DC. And I got to hang out with Chuck and I was telling him about the protein because we were geeking out about gear and stuff. And I was like, dude, I just got something that I know that you would love. Because right now he has a clone and I think he's using the Timmy. I'm like, oh, you gotta try this out, man. I know you would love this. So I told him next time they come to town, I'll bring it and he can play it and see if he digs it.
Tell him to email me, man.
Yeah, dude, that guy. Think about like Pat Martino. Like, I mean, Chuck, he had a really bad stroke, dude. Like they didn't think he was going to be playing again ever. So to see him on a stage now, coming back,
so inspirational. I just had a family member who just a couple months ago had a really bad one, and it's just not something I would wish on my worst enemy.
No, it's absolutely terrible. But out of the cocoon rose a butterfly. I mean, it's all working out. So
love it.
Woo. So real quick, thanks to BV for monitoring this this chat. Everybody go check out Browne Amplification on all the platforms, all the website. There's a bunch of great information on their website with all the pedal products that they offer. Please, please play through these. Go find a dealer. You're not going to regret it. It's amazing. David, thanks so much, buddy.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Let's do this again, okay?
Yeah, man. Hang tight, everybody. We'll see you next time. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other.